Hello friends, hello subscribers, how are you doing? I hope you like the introduction, and from now on I think I'm gonna name my project code name Prince Goro, and this is for its sheer size. Got a lot of updates, exciting updates right now. I got some interesting things that came in the mail that I can't wait to show you. Let's see what we've got here. I got a really big box here. Look at what I've got. 15 kW motors. Got two of these. Look at how cool that looks. Got one more here. This is very exciting for me. Now, if you don't know how much 15 kW is, that's around 20 horsepower. 20 horsepower per side. 20 horsepower left and right side. And that gives us around 100 pounds of thrust per side, which is a lot of thrust. And now I'll be honest with you guys, this isn't gonna be an EDF, nor is it gonna be a turbine. This is gonna be prop powered, and it's gonna be encased to make it look like a turbine. But I did come up with something to make it look like the real deal, to make it look like a turbine. Like for any person sitting, looking at it from the outside, they're not gonna know the difference. It's gonna look like a turbine. Now, what I came up with is obviously you can't mount a fan on this motor. It's not gonna work. It's gotta use a 36-inch propeller, and a fan would work because doesn't have enough RPMs. It's not made for it to be an EDF. And what I came up with is I found truck motor radiator fan that's around 36 inches and looks like a jet fan. You look at it and it looks like the real thing. And they're lightweight and relatively cheap. They're not expensive. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna encase this motor, make it look like a turbine, like a jet engine, and it's gonna sit in the back of the case with the prop. And at the very front of the engine, I'm gonna use this fan mounted to a free spinning bearing. What's gonna happen is when this motor turns up, when it revs up, that fan will have no choice but to spool up. Obviously, I'm gonna do a lot of tests with thrust to see how it works out, like with the fan mounted in the front and everything, to see what the actual thrust will be that I'll be getting, so that it doesn't affect thrust in any way. I don't think it is gonna affect thrust in any way. And it's gonna look like the real deal. It's gonna spool up as soon as the motor and prop behind it revs up and spins. As soon as that starts to spin, the fan ahead will have no choice but to spool up. So to any spectator looking from the outside, from the front, all the person will see will be a really big EDF. That's what it will look like, a really big jet engine. But obviously it's not going to be a jet engine. Now you might ask, okay, why? What's the reason for not using a big EDF or big turbine? Now I'll give you the answer. Obviously, first of all, it's cost. Really big EDFs as required for this project cost northwards of 10 grand. I've actually talked to some manufacturers in Europe. I'm not gonna disclose their names. I'm not gonna talk about any brands, but the price quotes that I got per unit, and this is without the ESC, is upwards of 10 grand per unit. And these units are not light, they're heavy. They're heavier than my setup. And at the end of the day, it's the same outcome. This produces almost 100 pounds of thrust, as does that unit. No difference. The only difference is I've paid $400 for this beauty, and I paid around 300 something for the ESC, which is, I'll show you in a while. It's a 400 ampere ESC, capable of being powered by a 22S LiPo. So all up per side, I paid $700, which is $1,400 for both sides. So you do the maths, and like if you're in my position, like paying more than, I don't have that. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna make myself out to be someone that I'm not. I don't have that extra cash just lying around waiting to be spent. I don't. So like paying northwards of 10 grand for a really big toy engine, not gonna happen. Especially when it's the same result. 100 pounds of thrust, 100 pounds of thrust, and my setup is not only cheaper, it is actually lighter. That setup is not light. It's not light. For my goals, the goals that I have for the total all-up weight for the whole plane, the setup of the motors alone, like it easily exceeds my weight goals. It's not worth it. And the LiPos that it requires is above like 24S. Like when you compare the two ideas side by side, like it doesn't make any sense to me to go with that setup. Doesn't make any sense. Now you might say, okay, you might get the same results, which is around 100 pounds of thrust, as you would get with that setup, with the ADF setup, which is 100 pounds of thrust, but it's still a propeller, which is a reasonable question and a reasonable statement to say. But I say if I mount a fan ahead, free spinning fan, that spools up as soon as the motor behind it starts to rev up, and it looks like an EDF from the outside. I mean, what's the difference? Okay, I understand you say it's not a real EDF and it's not a real turbine. Okay, but here's something you gotta think about. That EDF, you could look up, you could look to the left, you could look to the right, you could look down, you could scratch your head a bit. It's still an electric motor. It's not a turbine. It's not a turbine like actual 787s have. At the end of the day, it's just an electric setup. It's a really big electric motor. At the end of the day, all it does is create the illusion of being a jet engine. It's not a jet engine. Not at all. So what I'm doing is the same thing. All I'm doing is creating an illusion of it being a jet engine. What I'm doing is the same thing that the EDF is doing. I'm creating an illusion, it's creating an illusion. The result is the same, 100 pounds of thrust, 100 pounds of thrust. So you do the math. Which one is more logical to go with? So to me, it makes absolutely zero sense to go that way. 10 grand, I'd have to sell my car and I still wouldn't be able to afford it. I mean, 10 grand, that's just per side. Again, no brand bashing here. I'm not talking, I will not disclose the name of the brand or the manufacturer. All I can say is somewhere in Europe, and they make really big and impressive EDFs. I mean, bravo to them for all the good work, excellent work that they've done, but I just can't afford it, and it's outside my weight goals. Now, moving on from that, I'll try and show you my ESCs. Gotta turn my camera on. Let's have a look. Look at that. Look at that. 400 ampere ESCs. Rated from 4 to 22S. I paid like $300 something for this. It's quite impressive. And I'll be honest with you, I'm as excited as a kid right now. I don't think I'm gonna get any sleep, tonight. Truly amazing stuff. And this isn't, I'll be honest with you, this isn't RC plane grade. This is paraglider, paramotor grade stuff. This is, you could carry people. This is made to carry humans. So it's got a lot of power to it. And there's a guy, let me just mount the camera back here. Hold on, I'll be back in a second. There's a guy on YouTube now, I forgot his channel's name, but his name is Peter. He's a famous RC YouTuber. And the inspiration for these motors actually came from one of his videos. A while ago, he built a homemade actual electric plane, full-size plane, that he sat into and took off with. And the motors that he used were two Turnigy 150cc electric motors with an output of like 7.5 or 8.5 kWs. And that plane took off with him sitting in it. And it took off perfectly fine. Motors never overheated. Everything was excellent. So I thought I was going to use the same setup. I looked for those motors, I couldn't find them. But for the same price, I found motors that are twice the output of what he had. So if what he had was enough to lift both his project and his plane, I would imagine that this is like perfectly fine with twice the output. And obviously no one's gonna be sitting in my plane, and it's gonna be much lighter. So I would imagine that it would meet my goals and my aim. Now, moving on from that, something that I want to talk about is I do this all on my own. There's no team here, so there's no team, there's no computers, there's no machines. All of the designing has been done by hand using plotting and mathematics. There's no one here except me. I do this all alone. And I'm gonna be really involved right now with the project. I'm gonna be really busy, so I won't have a lot of time to do a lot of videos from now on. I'll be working in silence right now. So like I said, I won't be, because it's not easy making videos, getting the right angles, making it all. When you're a one-man team, you gotta weigh the options. I mean, you either put your focus into building the project or plane, or focusing on the film work, which right now, being a one-man team, I can't do both, because a lot of focus is gonna go into it right now, with me having most of my equipment here. Excuse me. So I'll be mainly focused on just building the plane and working in silence, as they say. And once I'm ready to put it all together, then you guys will see another video. But from now on, it's gonna be silence on my end. If you guys want to reach out to me, ask questions, I'll always be around to answer any questions. But as to making videos or posting photos, I won't be doing any of that until I'm ready to put it all together. Thank you to all the people that have encouraged me along the way. Thank you, it really means a lot. I received a lot of positive comments, a lot of encouragement. You won't believe how much this means. It means a lot. As for the negative comments, the people that have that have criticized me and the project, you know what you guys could do? You could take your opinions and you can stick them in your ears like this. You see, that's how much I care. I don't care. To the guys, I mean, I don't mind, some silly comments here and there. I mean, it's social media, it's YouTube. You've gotta adapt or ignore, as they say. But the one thing that I'd like to say to all the naysayers out there is I grew up in a place where RC flying is non-existent. It does not exist. It never existed. There was always a complete outright ban on it. No RC planes. And still I found a way to make planes, and I flew them, and I taught myself how to fly and enjoy the hobby. And so obviously, to me, making something like this is more of a challenge than for a person that grew up their whole lives in a country or environment where all of this was like always abundant. So take this into account before you make any silly comments. Like you've had a lot more advantages than I did, in this hobby. So before you make any silly comments, just think it through. And thanks again to all of the people that have encouraged me. I promise you'll get a video soon, as soon as I'm ready to put it all together. Thanks again for the encouragement. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got any questions, please reach out to me and I'll answer your questions. Thanks again. Bye bye.